Hi everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I've got a card tutorial for you and we're going to be making this fun spring pinwheel card with all the fun little pinwheels on it and the little fox carrying one. So today I'm going to be using a couple of stamp sets from Hello Bluebird. The first set that I'm using is Christmas is Coming, and I really love to use stamps that were maybe made for one occasion or purpose and use them for something else. So I love this little fox carrying the lantern, but I realized I could cut that lantern away and he could be carrying really anything I wanted. So I'm using him. And then also from the Hello Bluebird Spring Gathering, which is a newer set, I'm going to be using the butterfly. I'm using a couple of dies today. I'm using a stitched hill die. This one happens to be from a Muse studio. And I'm also using a wood grain die, and this is from Fawn. I thought that it kind of looked like wind blowing. I know they actually do have a set that is like clouds and kind of wind blowing through, but I don't have that one, but I did have this, and I thought that actually worked really well. So again, trying to use something that I already had for a different purpose. And then I'm also using a cloud stencil, and this is from Stencil Revolution. So for my card base, I've just taken a coral piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11, just cut, scored, and folded it in half. Then for my blue piece, this is a piece of textured cardstock, and it has a white core in it. And I have trimmed this down to 5 1/4 by 4. I have a strip of green that's 4 by 2, just a piece of 110-pound cardstock to stamp on, and some little squares of 1 by 1 gingham paper, and these are from the Gingham Gala set from Stampin' Up, and then we're going to make our little pinwheels with these. So the first thing that I'm going to do is die cut my images. So I'm going to put my blue piece down on my wood grain. I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. Then I'm also going to take a piece of repositionable tape, tape my heel in place, and run that through my die cut as well. So working on a scratch piece of paper, I'm going to take my blue piece that I've embossed and die cut, and I'm using Balmy Blue ink from Stampin' Up. This is just a dye-based ink, and I'm taking a blender brush. I'm just going to pick up some ink and just lightly add a little bit of ink blending to 3 of the edges of my blue cardstock. So I'm just going to do the top and the 2 longer sides. So I hope this shows up on camera. So I've just got a little bit of inking around 3 of the edges of my blue. And now using Pear Pizzazz from Stampin' Up, I'm going to take another blending brush and do the same thing and add just a little bit of green to the top of my hill. So now I've got just that nice pretty green edge on my hill. So now I'm ready to do a little bit of stenciling to add some clouds to my blue piece. So I'm going to lay the template where I would like it, and I'm going to tape it in place and make sure that at least one of those little pieces of tape is grabbing hold of that paper just so that it doesn't shift underneath. So for my clouds, I'm going to be adding some Color Box white chalk ink, again with a blender brush. And I'm going to use a Post-it note just so that I don't run my fingers through the clouds. I'm very klutzy and have a tendency to get ink all over my fingers. So I'm just going to pick some of that up and just circular motions. I'm going to go over 4 of the clouds on my stencil, and a couple of them are kind of going over the edge just to kind of help give it a little bit more of a realistic look. So I've applied all of my white ink, and here comes the fun part when you lift up the stencil and you get that fun reveal. So now I have those pretty white clouds, and I'm just going to take a damp paper towel and wipe my stencil clean. And next I wanted those lines to really show up that have been kind of embossed on there. So I'm taking my Tim Holtz Ideology sanding block, and because this is a white core cardstock, I can rub this over and it really helps make those white lines pop out. You are going to get some kind of little bits of cardstock, so that's why I like to do this on a scrap piece of paper. So with my cloud background finished, I'm just going to use some regular tape runner, and I'm going to apply my heel to the bottom Just line that up. And then I'm going to set that aside for now. So on my white cardstock, I'm going to take some Memento black ink because I'm using alcohol-based markers, and I'm going to stamp out my fox and stamp the butterfly out twice. So I'm ready to add some color to my images, and I really wanted coral. It's going to be the primary color on my card, so I'm taking Stampin' Blends markers from Stampin' Up, and I'm using Calypso Coral, and I'm going to color in my little fox in the lighter of the Calypso Coral, and I'm going to avoid his belly, the inside of his ears, and the tip of his tail. So now that I have that lighter coral laid down, I'm going to go around with the darker and just add some shading and shadowing. And now that I've added my shadow, I'm just going to go back in with the lighter Calypso Coral and just blend those two together. Now with that finished, I'm going to go back with the darker, and I just wanted to give him a nice big rosy cheek. Next on my fox, I'm going on to Ivory, and I'm just going to add it kind of like I would a shadow on his ear, tail, and tummy. Then I'm going to go in with a blender pen and just kind of blend that out so that it's not totally ivory and it's not totally white. And there's my finished fox, and I have left the little lantern uncolored because I am going to cut that away. Go back to the ivory and do the little bodies of my butterflies. And then with the light coral, I'm going to color in their wings. And now with the Uniball Signo white gel pen, I'm going to add some teeny little polka dots to the wings of my butterflies. I hope you can see that on camera. And then next, I want to add just a little highlight lines to my fox and just a little bit of a white dot on his eye. And that just gives a little bit more dimension. So now here's my finished coloring. I'm going to take the coordinating dies and a little bit of repositionable tape, and I'm going to cut out my fox and both my butterflies. And now that I have my images die cut, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to carefully cut around my little fox and cut away that lantern. And now using some regular tape runner, I'm going to apply him to the front of my card so he's just walking on the hill. And I've applied foam tape to the back of my little butterflies. I'm just going to have them fluttering on my scene. Now I'm going to set this aside and get started on my pinwheels. So the paper size that I use to make the pinwheels on my card is 1 inch square, but it's a little hard to see exactly how to put one together with such a tiny little size. So I've gone ahead and cut a 3 inch square just to demonstrate how you want to make your pinwheel. And I really like using a double-sided pattern paper. You don't have to, but I think that just adds a little bit more dimension to it. So you're just going to take your ruler and you're going to line it up from one corner to the opposite corner. Take your pencil and just draw a light line and do the same the other corner to corner. So now that we have this X drawn, I'm going to take our scissors and we're going to follow along that pencil line and cut up towards the center, but leave yourself about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Don't cut all the way to the middle. And you're just going to do that on all 4 sides. Just follow that pencil line. So I've cut along all my pencil lines, and at this point I like to go ahead and erase my pencil marks. So on some paper it might show. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. So now I want to apply a glue dot to the center of my square, or you could also use just a little bit of your tape runner. I wouldn't use liquid glue because you really need it to hold fast. So the first thing you want to do is just pick a corner. So I have this little triangle. I'm starting with the lower right hand corner, and I'm just going to fold that point up to touch that glue dot. Then I'm going to move on to my next triangle and do the same thing. Lower right hand corner, fold that up to touch the glue dot. And I like to kind of round it as I'm going. I'm going to turn it again, lower right hand corner, touch that to the glue dot. And one last time. And that forms the body of the pinwheel. And next you can add anything in the center that you would like. So you could put a pom-pom, a brad, a jewel, a pearl, a button, anything that will fit in the center. And then you just add a stick to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of these tiny ones just to give you an idea real quick. It's just the same principle. I'm going to make an X. I'm going to cut my lines. I'm going to erase my pencil lines. And then this time in the center, I'm using a slightly smaller glue dot, but the principle is the same. I'm just going to fold up that corner, touch it to the glue dot. So this is a little fiddly the smaller that you get, and just keep going around. So here's my teeny tiny little pinwheel. I've added another glue dot to the center, and I'm just going to take some pretty little blue sequins and just add that in the middle for the center of my pinwheel. I'm going to turn my pinwheel over and apply another small glue dot to the back. And now I've got a toothpick, and these are the type of toothpicks that are sort of flat instead of rounded. It just makes it a little bit easier to be able to adhere them to your card. It's a little long for what I need, so I'm just going to take some, these are just some old scissors. I don't mind if they get kind of dull, and I'm just going to snip off part of that stick, and I'm just going to apply the back with the glue onto the glue dot, and now I have that cute little pinwheel. So now I'm going to do that for my coral and my blue pieces and make 3 pinwheels. So here are my cute little finished pinwheels. I just think these are so much fun. And I'm ready to add them to my scene. First, I'm going to just apply some tape runner to my blue piece and adhere that to my card base. So I wanted to have my pinwheels kind of pop off. So on the back of each, I have applied a foam dot, and I'm going to apply my coral one and my blue one on my scene. And then on the one that the fox is holding, I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't slip and it would stay where I wanted it to stay. So I'm just taking a glue pen, or you could use a little bit of liquid glue. I'm just going to apply a little bit to the stem there. And I'm just going to place this in his hand right over where he was carrying the lantern. So here is our finished card. I think it's really sweet with the little pinwheels, and you can make these in any size. Just start off with a square piece of pattern paper and make them in really teeny sizes all the way up to really large sizes. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I want to apologize if you've heard some noise in the background. Someone is running a wood chipper outside in our neighborhood and making a lot of sound, so I apologize if that's picked up. But I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please check out my channel and consider subscribing. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And I hope you have a really wonderful spring. This is Heather. Thanks. Bye.